Thank you for listening to the Unscripted Dreams Podcast with Joe and Marcus. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at unscripteddreams@gmail.com. If you're interested in listening to exclusive content that includes bonus episodes and our Hindsight video series, please join us on Patreon at the Unscripted Dreams Podcast. If you're listening to our podcast on YouTube, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. Thank you. Show record on my end. You?
Yeah, I'm good over here, man. You know, upgraded out here and everything. What's up, people? This is Joe.
It's Marcus.
As we know, life is full of surprises, both good and bad. The day-to-day journey is full of unforeseen obstacles, and sometimes it's hard to see our way through. Beyond the norm and mundane are where unscripted dreams live. Join us for thought-provoking discussions and interviews to help us navigate through the fog and create our own path. We are the Unscripted Dream Podcast, operating outside the margins to motivate and inspire our audience. So today's episode is geared around initiative. For those folks that are like, what the heck is initiative, or how are they going to break it down? Initiative simply means the ability to assess and initiate things independently.
Doing things without being told. Like the ability to think for yourself and take action.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So do we both agree that that's
100%? Yeah, I was just giving them like a really basic dictionary answer.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think there are some benefits. I think there's some benefits and some setbacks or some cons, like pros and cons of taking the initiative. One of the first ones I kind of see with taking the initiative is just kind of, gaining the advantage on the competition. So, if you're in a work situation, you see that, there's an opportunity to grow, or there's something that's lacking in some area within the company. You kind of see that, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and step up, and take the initiative and, work on a project or volunteer for a project. That's something that can really be helpful to you and really give you a step up on other people.
Right.
But really, I really want to take a kind of bit of a step back a little bit. Joe, where do you think initiative kind of comes from? Like, where do you, because I think it's just a characteristic of someone who actually is like, someone who's a go-getter, who is ambitious and has goals for themselves. Where do you think that stems from with someone?
Hold that thought, man, because I got something to say. What I really want to say is people view initiative as being either you have it in you or you don't, and that's complete bull crap. And the reason why I'm saying it's bull crap is because it's a learned behavior, just like anything else. So you're not going to take initiative if it wasn't in your makeup, as far as the people you grew up around or the people you hang around with. If it's not in their norm or in their, however they live their life, you're not going to develop that. Some people do. There's always those hidden gems, but it's not something that is as foreign as most people think. Like, initially, how I lived my life, I wasn't necessarily someone that took initiative. I was actually a very timid kid growing up, believe it or not. Over time, I developed taking initiative based on certain life experiences that kind of built me up to that point. But what I'm trying to say is it's definitely something that you can be taught. So you need to get out of your whole mind or your whole psyche that this is something you're born with, and it's not. Just like anything else, it's a learned behavior. It can be taught. It's all about how you practice and how you do things. Okay, can we double back to how you were asking that question?
Let's double back, see if I even remember what I was asking, Joe. But But no, I think I think you explained that pretty well. But I guess since you kind of explained it, I'll just kind of if you're saying that it's a learned behavior. Say for example, it's not learned. I think that some of us learn it and we see it, but I think for some people, and I don't know how rare of a trait it may be, is that some people just kind of have the sense to like go out there and do things. Now that doesn't. I don't think that means that you take the initiative and something good happens. Like you could be somebody who takes the initiative and
No, man, there's a ringleader in
yeah,
crime. There's a ringleader in everything, man.
yeah. So I mean, you could also create an adverse situation for yourself as well. Uh, but I think I think there's an importance in learning, you know, when it's important to act before others do. So Joe, can you recall a time where you took the initiative and it paid off for you?
What is this, man? An interview for a job? um,
That is
yeah,
a
man.
cheese question, though. I agree. It is.
Yeah, man. As far as taking initiative, I would say, dang, man, you put me on the spot for real. I would say the idea of even going to college, man, you know what I'm saying? That was nobody's idea but mine. Yeah, there was pressures that were built around it, but it was my initiative to pick first and foremost where the hell I wanted to go. And to be honest with you, it's kind of funny how I ended up where I was. It was more so because it started when I was younger. And that was like a go-to school that a lot of people that were way older than me that went to. So I always kept it in mind, but I never thought it would actually come into fruition. So that lets you know how powerful words are. So, you know, you hang out with friends and their older siblings and them talk about like, hey, man, I want to go to this school, blah, blah, blah. I want to go to Michigan State. I want to go to University of Michigan, Central Michigan, you know, like stuff like that. And, you know, you realize that you don't even, you know, you internalize these things and, you know, you don't realize how they really stick on you. So when it came to the time for me to go to school and I was like, man, I can't move out of state. You know, I'm not ready for that. And then, you know, it comes to a process of elimination. And, you know, when you're a kid in high school, you don't necessarily think about the next step as far as being out there on your own. I wasn't raised or prepared for that. Like I was by as far as the fundamentals, but as far as actually thinking on my own, where I will actually be on my own, I wasn't in that mindset because there were so many things that were happening at that point in time. So with this whole process, from a span of maybe 7-8 months tops is when I actually thought about what school I wanted to go to. And what came up with mine were those schools, which were, I think, a list of about 4 or 5 schools that I was interested in based on stories I've heard, experiences that other people had. And that ultimately what made my decision as far as taking initiative with school. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, was one of the factors going to a party school? Was that a factor?
A huge factor, man. You know, you know, at the time, you know, the school that we went to, Central Michigan University, was one of the top 3 party schools. So I wouldn't say per se that was a huge ideal, but the fact that it actually was not too far off of what I wanted to do, it worked. And the reason why it worked is because it wasn't too far from home, but it was far enough. And you know, the curriculars or the curriculum and all that kind of stuff, like how their whole campus was set up was perfect for me. Like the campus was big, but it wasn't big, if that made sense.
Yeah.
There's like over 20 some thousand, I think at that time it's like over 20 some thousand people that are living on campus. And, you know, that's a decent size, but you don't see all those people, which kind of worked out even better for the benefit. So it was almost like me being on a high school campus times, I don't know, would you say like about 10, maybe a little bit more?
It depends on what kind of high school you went to. Okay, everybody
I went to a big high school, by the way.
Everybody didn't go to these like crazy high schools. But that was a sidebar. That's a sidebar. I'm trying to reel it back in just just a little bit. So as I was just going through just some of the benefits, just of taking the initiative, like you were saying, Joe, and just the whole college process. You took the initiative in, doing your research.
Yeah, man. None of my homies even thought about college. Like, they didn't even go to college. Like, the main people I chill with in high school didn't go to college. So that speaks a lot for itself.
Yep, and that's important. I mean, that's and that's why being someone who's takes initiative. I mean, they're a self starter. They don't they don't need somebody to prime them up just to get ready. You self motivate essentially.
Look, man, the only thing I did as far as required help on this, as far as applying my application and doing this whole process, was two things. First thing was money for the application I got from my mom. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was them actually driving me up there for orientation. Everything else was on me. That was it.
Yeah. So I want to get into just like stories, kind of just maybe like a couple stories I have on, taking the initiative and, how it kind of worked out for me, or maybe it didn't work out. This was my first job out of college. I mean, I was essentially working at essentially it was a startup, in my opinion. But I had, observed, and it wasn't, when I first got out of college, I feel like I had something to prove. When I got out of school, because I was in school for so long, I wanted to prove to myself that, if I didn't have to work 2 jobs and be a full-time student, that I would have excelled at in a greater capacity than what I did. So I came out of college, like I'm about to come out, get out of here and make things happen. I had something to prove to myself. So anyway, I was working at this job, and I was, just kind of observing one of the owners, and he was like always stressed out, man. Like he just like, I was like, man, bro, you just doing too much, man. You just crazy stressed out. So, but I mean, I was working there for probably a couple months or a few months at this time. I was in an entry level position, but I had watched him and I saw him, like he worked, and that's when I work, if I am working for somebody, I'm kind of checking you to see if you're lazy and you'll step back. Like some leaders take pride in their ability to delegate and not do certain tasks. And that's not how I lead. So I kind of look at, I respect you if you're willing to get in there, and he was one of those leaders. So one day I saw him doing something and I'm like, man, why are you doing this? And I just kind of asked him, I was like, well, if you need help with doing this, A and B, I can assist you with that. And he didn't, I wasn't prompted to do anything. I just saw that it would, lighten his load, and it wasn't offered or nobody else volunteered to do it, but I ended up assuming that responsibility. And then I think I got a raise. The next month I ended up getting promoted shortly after that. But, that was just an example of when, taking the initiative can really help you. If you see a supervisor or manager or an owner, they're struggling with something, and that you have the ability to assist them. That's something that you can kind of, use that as a tool to, advance yourself. But also, I mean, you're helping out that organization as a whole too. If you're taking off a little bit of, I mean, it could be a 15, 20-minute task, but that could free up that person in that position to do things, to put things in place to make that business run more smoothly, and to make your job a little bit easier. I mean, also, depending on what it is, you get some additional experience as well. Okay, something else you can throw on your resume. And also you could gain a reference as well.
You know what? I think he just happened to luck up. He didn't know that he found a diamond in the rough, to be honest with you. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah. I'll probably explain this later, but if I work for you, how there's a a bronze, silver, gold, or a platinum package. Like there's different, depending on how much I like you and I respect you, you get the bronze package. And then if I'm working for you, at the minimum, you get the bronze package. That's pretty good. That's probably better than what you get from half the
Anybody.
people out there. But if I like you, I'll deviate into those that higher level of services, which I'll volunteer my time or I'll take the initiative and I'll look for solutions for you. But if I don't like you and you treat employees like trash, you treat me garbage, you get that bronze and you'll never get the best of my abilities. But another example, I think people can use this is, I saw, I was a manager at this point, and I saw a training, and it related to the work that we were doing, and I don't forget what it cost. It wasn't a lot. It's probably like $100 to go to a training or something. And, I took the initiative and I sent it out to one of the owners. Like I just let them know, I said, I think this would be helpful for just, how we do business and how I operate, and after that, they ended up paying for it and I was able to go, and it was helpful and it was something that I could bring back into our programming. But after I sent them that and I went to that training, they started sending me trainings that they would come across and ask me if I wanted to go. So sometimes you taking that initiative to improve yourself kind of puts different things on the radar of your superiors. And sometimes they'll start to then I started going to trainings that I didn't want to go to, but they were helpful, but it wasn't, now I had them kind of working in my best interest at times. So
to combat what you just said there, man, is there such thing as taking too much initiative and quote unquote biting off more than you can chew?
Absolutely. And this is one of the things I remember as I was working in this position, and I was getting like more and more responsibility. And I remember I was having a conversation with my brother, and I was like, man, look, bro, I said, they're giving me like all this work that I'm doing. They just keep stacking it on. Because whatever they were throwing at me, I was doing it. So, and then he told me, and I'll never forget this because it's true. And he said the reward of doing good work is getting more work. So that kind of stuck with me. And, I always think about that. Like if I do good at this, they're going to give me some more stuff. Like they're not going to say like, oh man, you're doing so well, and let me scale back your work.
Yeah, man, for sure. I've been in that situation. I remember I was talking my points with you as far as a situation where I was working, and more or less, I guess you could say that this position was kind of like dead end for me per se. And the reason why I say it was dead end is because it was kind of like you can go up salary wise, but as far as like moving up and learning more, it was a dead end. And I wanted the experience. I didn't care for the money. That's why I'm in a good situation now. And I was so good at that position because, it's kind of like the same stuff every day, different stuff, but based on fundamentals and procedures of how you had to do things. Basically, what I did was I did appeals. So with insurance, there's always people that have complaints and they file appeals, right? So I was the guy that was taking on these appeals with medical visits and whatnot, medical procedures. Say somebody went in for a chemotherapy and they needed more dosage and we only approved them for a small amount. So we have to go through a whole appeal process, which is like, I don't know, give or take 60 days, 30 days. I don't remember, but it's around there. So the standards always change, but I was really good at my job to the point where I was flipping cases. So I was doing cases like nobody's business. Like I would get a caseload of like maybe 40, and I would probably be done with most of them within 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So that lets you know how fast I was burning through that. Nobody else was doing that. So it got to a point where, we already had an offset workload where everything was behind. So who you think they came to? They came to me. So they're like, dang, this guy's doing all this work. He's doing his thing. And on top of that, he's not even doing overtime like everyone else is. Like, what's up with that? Like, he's messing up it gets to a point where you start messing up the standard around there. And I was like, the standard around here ain't going to get it done or cut it because we don't have enough people on our staff to do what you want to do, man. Either you got to keep up with me, or, you're the one that's going to have to answer to the director and the supervisor of why you can't keep up. And you've been here for X amount of years. I'm sorry, but I was hungry and I still am. So, me doing what I should do is, I performed to the best of my ability, knocked out cases, and I was just sitting there just waiting for more work. It got to a point where I was doing other people's cases and stuff like that. And then before you know it, the burnout comes. Luckily, I didn't get to a full burnout because I had an exit plan, and thank God it worked. But my whole goal or my whole intent was to shine so bright that other people could see me and see what I had to offer the company. And it worked out. I'm not saying that works out for a lot of people's cases, but if you're going to take initiative, you must know exactly who you're messing with. As Wesley Snipes was saying, Blade, know who you are bleep with. Like, you have to know who you messing with, man. Like, with you putting all that effort in your work, that's great. Nothing's wrong. Nobody can tell you nothing when it comes to working your ass off. But you got to know what type of consequences come with that. Anybody could be a hard worker, but do you realize that you might be working yourself into a hole? You might be working yourself into a grave. You might be working yourself out of a job because people don't like the way that you're working.
Yep.
And that's a whole nother conversation. So, you really have to see things for what it is, work smarter, not harder. And that's all I have to say. Work smarter, not harder. I just knew what I was doing at the time because I had a game plan before I even entered that position. But like I said, it was very well possible that it wouldn't work out for me. And all what would happen is I'd be pigeonholed and miserable, and it would have forced me to do all the overtime that everybody else was doing because I would have been bitter at that point from doing all them cases. So luckily, by the good graces of God, I got up out of there.
Yeah. But yeah, Joe, I think that worked out for you because you had a plan, and that's key too. Just to know, you were working a job and you had like your goals were very clear. What you wanted. And I think that's why you were able to maneuver and, find yourself, work your way into a better position, which is why it's important to have a plan, because if you're just approaching it as if this is a job and you're just kind of going through the motions, and you'll get caught up in something and then you just get swept away with it. But one question I have for you, Joe, is since you were saying that, you're not concerned about what other people are doing, you handle your business. Do you think that people who take the initiative, can they be perceived as being a brown noser? Now, a brown noser is someone who's essentially like a suck up.
It's all about your demeanor. Like me and this one guy that work together, and I'll revert back to this position. Man, I swear this is just like a damn job interview. So, me and him literally were the hardest working people. Like he had the pharmacy experience. So he was working with medications primarily. I was working with some medications that would apply into the medical world. Mm-hmm. So I was more so doing medical service. They're both medical service, but I was doing it from more so a clinical perspective, and he's doing it from a pharmacy perspective. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So me and him basically had the same system. Like we shared each other's tips and everything like that, even though our work was very different from each other's, but it was also very well aligned because he was doing appeals as well, just a different form. So what I'm trying to say in so many words with that is with me positioning myself and doing that, The first thing that came to mind was me asking, what's the worst that can happen? So like when you got all these people that are watching you and you got eyes on you and stuff like that, you always have to think about what's the worst that can happen? Like, what can they do to me? Once you process that and you fully accepted what can happen to you, there's no holds bar. That's the only thing that's stopping you from taking initiative is fear. And fear is nothing but false expectations appearing real. Literally. That's just you and your imagination. And I have a huge imagination. And, I'm the only child. So, yeah, huge imagination. But what I'm saying is, man, like, it's nothing but fear. And once you overcome that and you overcome fear, dude, I promise you, you'll probably take a lot more initiative than what you've expected. You'd be like, man, I wasted so much time on not doing this or that or the third because I was too afraid to speak up, too afraid to say what I wanted to say and get it off my chest. Like sometimes, man, it's necessary for you to do that so you can combat that stuff. Sometimes you have to make mistakes and actually take those risks so you can learn what you can do and what you can't do. It's all about pushing yourself to the full extent, knowing your full limit.
Yep. And you put that well, Joe. I'm a wrap because I think as we're kind of hitting time, I'm gonna have to go into this a little bit deeper, and we'll do a hindsight on this. But the key, if there's a key takeaway from what I was trying to explain is just take initiative in your life. Whatever you're working on or whatever goals you have to actively pursue that, and you have to, like I said, you have to be resourceful without being told what to do. I mean, you have to think. You have to think for yourself, but look for opportunities for potential improvement. If that's in your business, if that's in your personal life, look for those opportunities, look for those areas where things can be better, and see how, see what you can kind of work out, and, get feedback, reach out to people who will give you some honest feedback too. And I think we'll touch on this in the hindsight, because there's a lot. It'll almost be I think it's going to be like a little schooling a little bit, Joe, the way I'm going to break this down. But,
For sure, man.
But there's a lot of variables that you have to consider when you're taking the initiative, because, you have to know how organization works. You have to know like the mindset of the people you work with. You have to know what problems currently exist. You have to know the frustrations of the people on your team, the other folks that you work with, and you have to consider the objections as well, and the resistance that you'll meet when you do take the initiative, because everybody won't like what you're doing, and you have to deal with that. You have to figure out how to work around that. But I'm gonna break that down. But that's all I have, Joe. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, man. Just a takeaway, man. Initiative doesn't do anything but just clearly define like how much you want something and how badly you need it. That's literally what it is. And with initiative, man, all it does is it speaks to your struggle. So if you're taking a lot of initiative to do something, that I can pretty much sum up your background. Like you've went through enough where you can't possibly tolerate that anymore, and you try to go somewhere else. So anytime I take initiative on something and I'm full-fledged forward on it, you can't tell me nothing, because I've been dealing with wherever I came from for X amount of time, and I ain't trying to deal with it no more. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get off my ass and show you how hungry I am to get to where I want to be. And that's why I'm here talking to you in front of this mic.
Show the world what you're capable of.
Do your thing.
Because nobody else is going to do it for you. That's the fact.
Nobody. I don't care what you say. You have to put some effort forward to anything to get any type of result.
Absolutely. Well, are you good? You good, Joe?
Am I good? I got one quote, man. I
knew you had something. That's why I asked, man.
This is the last one, man. And this is actually from somebody named Benny the Butcher. For you people that know who Benny the Butcher is, my hat goes off to you. But he literally said something that always sticks with me. He said, no matter your condition, always know what's your mindset. I'll say it one more time. No matter what your condition is, always know what's your mindset. And that's all.
All right. Short, but to the point. Benny the Butcher. I have no idea who that is, by the way. Joe will tell me after this is over. But thanks for listening. We appreciate it. I hope this message finds you all well. Be safe. Take care. We'll talk to you all soon.
All right. Yeah, be safe out there in the quarantine times. All right. Later, people.
Peace.